ESPN has been reporting that Big Nico, or Nico's dad, is saying that this isn't about the money, that this is about Tennessee's offensive scheme, right? And I just think that's just completely crazy, because that's not what it is. I felt like Nico was in a great system. It is about the money. And so now you're about to go somewhere where you're coming in the spring. You don't have a lot of time to really work with the team before the season starts. You're going to be in a new conference. I think it's just going to be an immense amount of pressure put on Nico that he didn't have to have. It's the day after the transfer portal opened, and former Tennessee quarterback Niko Yamalava does not have a new home. Sources told ESPN that UCLA is one of a few teams eyeing Nico, but not for the $4 million that his camp is looking for. So this past weekend, Iamaleava shocked the sports world after Tennessee parted ways with the starting quarterback because he decided to sit out of practices and meetings during his contract negotiation. Now, he and his camp were demanding $4 million from the Volunteers. Nico was set to make a little more than $2 million this season after leading the Vols to a playoff appearance last year. In that season, he threw for nearly 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. His QBR rating ranked him 36th in the country. Now, of course, this has brought on huge debates on social media on whether the NCAA is at fault or Nico and his camp. Now, this is very interesting to me because I covered the Tennessee Volunteers for like 4 years while I was living in Tennessee. And what I know about Josh Heupel is what he said in his press conference: nobody is bigger than the power T. I will say, though, that this completely shocked me because Nico came into this situation behind two quarterbacks that were drafted before him in Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton. He was able to kind of sit with Joe Milton, like, you know, in the background as Joe Milton had his season. And then he came in as a sophomore and I thought had a pretty successful season for Tennessee. He had big wins. Of course, he beat Oklahoma, who was ranked 15th at the time. He beat number 7 Alabama. He had a big win over Vanderbilt, who was kind of coming into their own towards the end of the season there. But I'm really shocked because I'm like, Nico, what's going on? Why did you feel like you had to go about it in this way? Now, a lot of people are talking about Carson Beck leaving Georgia, going down to Miami for $4 million. And I don't know who got in Nico's head or his father's head, because I think that that's who is the closest to him. I think he also has somebody else that is also talking to him about this contract stuff. But why did they feel the need to do it this way, right? Like, you could negotiate behind the scenes, but don't sit out of practice, right? Don't not come to meetings, because then I think that sets a precedent. And I think that Josh Heupel was really spot on in the way that he handled this situation, because if they folded, then you're just going to continue to see that. So in the question of who's at fault, I think both parties are at fault. The NCAA is going to have to find a way to not have these types of situations. And so I thought what Cam Newton had to say was really interesting. So he said, quote, "Whoever gave him the advice to sit out killed that kid. Whoever told his father, whoever told him or gave him the inkling of, quote, we need more money. Yeah, you would think it's about the money, but this has everything to do with advice. Who advised the Iamaleava family to make this decision right? Because this is what you must understand. Nico and Big Nico, who is Nico's father, regardless of how you bounce back from this, you will be the example." And that is so spot on. Newton also went on to say that this was a stain on his career. Moving forward, he's always going to be the player who left a great situation in Tennessee where you were the starter since you were a sophomore to now maybe having to go to a UCLA team, or maybe you're having to go somewhere else. I know that Tulane was in talks saying that they may pay him, but it may not be the $4 million that he wanted to get. Tulane is in the American Conference, so now you're even dropping out of Power 5. And you just had so much stuff going for you with Tennessee. Like I said, I covered him last year. I covered them all the way to their playoff appearance. And as for him being so young, you could not even tell that all of this stuff may have been weighing on him as far as being a starting quarterback at his age in the SEC. And that was something that we constantly asked Josh Heupel about. How are you going to get Nico prepared to play in the SEC? And when he had these big moments, 9 times out of 10, he showed up. So also Cam went on to say, whether it's his father, whether it's his agent, whether it's his family members, it doesn't matter. This is a good story of advice, of good advice, bad advice. Whoever advised this kid to sit out and chase in hopes of more money is a fool. This ain't it, bro. You at 19 years old, but this money is not gonna last past 94. And I know that there has been reports that have come out now. ESPN has been reporting that Big Nico, or Nico's dad, is saying that this isn't about the money, that this is about Tennessee's offensive scheme, right? And I just think that's just completely crazy, because that's not what it is. I felt like Nico was in a great system. It is about the money. And so now you're about to go somewhere where you're coming in the spring. You don't have a lot of time to really work with the team before the season starts. You're going to be in a new conference. I think it's just going to be an immense amount of pressure put on Nico that he didn't have to have. You were going to make $2.4 million this year with Tennessee. You were going to continue to be the starter. The job was yours. Now you have to go in a situation and maybe fight for a spot somewhere, because a lot of teams right now have their starting quarterback that they've paid. And that's a big thing for me too, is that Tennessee really fought tooth and nails for Nico Yamalava. They went to battle with the Supreme Court over the NIL stuff. And then when the NCAA came back the following year and said, well, this was against our rules and he's going to have to sit out, they put money in attorneys to fight it with that. So this whole situation is just absolutely crazy. I think the funniest thing is people butchering Iamaleava. Like, it's not that hard. And maybe I just know it because I had to cover him, but it's Iamaleava. But unfortunately, like I said, this is going to be a stain. I agree with Cam Newton. It's going to be a stain on his career. I don't even know if teams are going to be willing to even sign him, because they don't know after 1 year, is he going to come back and want to sit out? I just want to hear from you all. You let us know down in the comments. What did you make of this whole Nico Yamalava situation? His dad now coming out saying it's not about the money. It was about the offensive scheme, and that we're now a day after the portal has opened and he has not yet landed in a new home. Let us know.